Thank you. It's time for us to end our recess and get back to order. Okay, we reconvene at 7:32. And we'll move on. We'll move on to 5, consent agenda. Is there anything to remove from consent agenda? Hearing none, seeing none. Okay, motion to move the consent agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Janet, seconded by Tim. Roll call.
Trustee Burson?
Aye.
Trustee Morgan?
Aye.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee McGilly?
Aye.
Trustee Millette? Trustee Muncy?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. We'll move to staff reports. We'll start out police department. And Chief James Levan.
January monthly report is attached, about 145 calls for service, 9 accidents, 31 citations, and 1 arrest. We had 2 new part-time officers that have started with us, Savi and Carolina. Both will be great assets to the department. Both are bilingual. One of them actually is a Camden Hills resident, and they both have prior police experience, so they'll both be great additions to the department. We are currently in the hiring process for entry and lateral officers. It's required by the state. We have to have a list posted, so that's going to take place March 9th. That'll be done by the Fire and Police Commission. Beast evidence tracking system started installation today, so hopefully either this week or beginning of next week, that will be in. And then I'm pretty excited to say that is our evidence from A to Z that has been absolutely overhauled, so I'm excited about that. That'll put us at industry standards or exceeding industry standards for our entire evidence process. So it took a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of people that helped, and our new evidence property manager, Christina, she's a great asset to it. We did have a residential burglary Sunday night. It was family related, but it was good work by all the officers involved, including Officer Cusick. And then Carolina, they located him in St. Charles, sleeping in his vehicle 2 hours after the burglary. Took him into custody. He was charged with felonies. Sergeant Blinko did the processing of the evidence, and Commander Ziegler assisted. So from the time of the crime to the time he was arrested, a matter of hours. So it was good police work, and there's no threat to the community. This was a family-related issue. So that took place. Block cameras in the final approval with IDOT. That should be coming out shortly with their permits. They'll go ahead and install the camera. I know Trustee Muncy brought up HB 4603, which is a concern for us in law enforcement. That's from Representative Slaughter, who pretty much wants to take away the police's ability to make traffic for almost every reason. Originally, he was going to pull it. Now he's changed his mind. He hasn't pulled it. So the Chiefs Association and that are sort of trying to convince him, so we'll see, follow it, what he's going to do with it. But he has not officially pulled it yet, even though he said he was planning on doing it. And I think that is all I have for you.
Any questions for Chief Levan? Oh, go ahead, Jan.
I
I just had one about the system that you mentioned for evidence processing. Can you tell us just a little more about it, how it's implemented, and where it resides?
Yeah, so the Beast is amazing. It's a Porter Lee Corporation out of Schaumburg. They are used all across the United States, so they're so good that a perfect example would be your crime labs, like the Illinois State Police Crime Lab is actually operated by the Beast system. So what's nice about Beast, it's a barcoded system. So our old method, which a lot of departments still do use, of having an officer type that information into a computer, print it out on a report, hopefully that goes to the evidence manager and everything. This is completely different, it's barcoded. So what'll happen is a piece of evidence comes in, it gets barcoded, it runs off its own system, it no longer ties into our Crime Star. And then what'll happen is now the property manager has complete control. So let's say an officer has to take a piece of evidence out for court purposes. That's barcoded. It's not writing something down anymore, losing a piece of paper. It's done by a barcode system that's running separately from Crime Star. They are absolutely amazing when it comes to their evidence. Nice thing about them, there is an initial cost, as you know, when you first install it. After the initial installation, it's $870 a year for the program. So for like the cost of it, hands down, is absolutely priceless.
Does that system, is it installed on our server here, or is it run on their cloud somewhere?
No, so that's the whole thing. They'll give you all the software, everything for it, but it has to run off your own servers and your own systems, which is great, is what we want. We obviously want to use their technology, their equipment to make the evidence process better, but we don't want to rely on having them necessarily to have all that information on one of their servers, so it goes to each individual agency servers.
So is that something that you're able to install yourself, or did they do it, or do we have a helping hand do it? How does that work?
So it goes in two parts. So they started today. The first part is they do it like Zoom over the phone, actually just getting the initial software put onto ours. And then what they'll do is next week, one of their guys will come in for 2 hours and then do the training with like myself, the evidence manager, and a couple other people. And then it'll be our responsibility to show the officers how to use the system. But it's a pretty straightforward and easy system to use.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Ed.
Thank you, President Winnicke. Real quick, I noticed a few things, Chief Levan, on the police overall report, which you did. Thank you for that. I see 1 incident of deceptive practices, 2 of identity theft, and 1 of harassment through electronic means. That's not typical. Maybe the identity theft we see those every once in a while. Just wanted to know if there's anything going on that we should know about.
No, and we do, like, if you look every once in a while, especially like the deceptive practices, it sort of seems like a trend. What'll happen is, like, if someone experiences, typically our deceptive practices is a form of identity theft, one way or the other. It's when you start, you see them on the news. It's like, you know, coming up, what's going to be the next one? Because we have it every year. It's going to be the tax one. Every year it happens, every single time. And, you know, they usually will pick out an elderly person, and they'll call that person, and they got to give them money. And people do it, unfortunately, all the time. And we see these things year over year with it, but it still happens. So there is, when you see like the spike in it, it's not necessarily anything like to be alarming or worry about. It's just, it literally moves from community to community. What you don't see as often is when you start getting to like the electronic communication stuff, that doesn't happen that often. And courts are pretty hard to charge that too. That kind of stuff happens a lot, but to get a court to actually charge someone for it, you gotta get quite a bit of evidence for it, so you typically won't see those on our monthly reports, because it's not very common.
Okay, thanks for that. Appreciate it.
Okay, moving on, we have our treasurer in the audience, and you want to give us a
Quick.
short report?
First of all, congratulations, James, well deserved.
Thank you.
I sent everyone an email along with the 9-month year-to-date financial statements. There really isn't too much to report in terms of the 8-month to the 9-month year-to-date, just pretty much incremental through when it comes to revenue and expenses. I did try and highlight some of the more notable points in the email. In the email, I did also note that tomorrow I will be meeting with the Finance Committee at 7 p.m. That'll be an open meeting. Everyone's welcome to attend. That really is going to gear us up towards fiscal year 25 and addressing some of the more important issues facing the village. Open any questions? Thank you very much.
Okay,
Oh,
Jim.
I'm sorry.
Tim, just more of a comment. If there's a way that you can get this report to us as part of the packet, I think that's what we're kind of used to in the past. Because what happens, I checked at noon, I didn't see anything, and then I checked at 4 o'clock, and I see it came at 2 o'clock. So it just is a scramble to try to read anything, to kind of comprehend and make sure if there's any questions that you want to ask, that I have time to go through it. So I would ask that it come with the police report, et cetera, as in the past. That would be helpful, I believe, for the trustees. Thanks.
Noted, sure. Thank you.
Go ahead, Janet. Tim?
A couple things. You and I have talked before, and Administrator Rooney and I have spoken at least once about some challenges between some members of the Finance Committee and in working with you in the village. And there have been some requests made and some expectations that aren't consistent with your normal practices or Administrator Rooney's normal practices. But they seem to be consistent with what our Finance Committee members have experienced in the past. And so I can't advise, I don't even have a strong opinion about which way if these issues should swing one way or the other. But what I guess I'm sort of asking the rest of the board members if they're willing and interested in discussing these issues with the Finance Committee members, with Treasurer McPhillips or Administrator Rooney, get a better handle on it. I wonder whether what we are doing as a village, what you and Administrator Rooney are doing in good faith, no criticism, but whether or not that is consistent with what the Finance Committee is used to, and whether, if it isn't, whether it would be appropriate for us to provide alternative direction than what has happened in the past.
Well,
And then secondly, and I know that's a lot, the second one is simpler. You made a very, I think, really great comment in your report to us about the burden of FOIA requests. And there are various different flavors of FOIA requests. You mentioned some FOIA requests that are, I forget how you referred to them.
That was a quote, but I think it was
Delinquent.
adolescents or something.
Right,
along those
right.
lines.
So FOIA being that municipalities receive FOIA requests from people who don't appear to have good reason to ask for that information. I mean, it's constitutionally protected request apparently, but from what we as regular humans can see, a lot of times these requests are not connected to any particular reality that we're aware of, right? And then there are also requests that come to us from members of the community, which were, I don't know that they're any more important, but they ring for us maybe perhaps a little differently. So I know that in East Dundee, for example, there was an issue with excessive FOIA requests regarding permits, and there was a policy change. Clerk Johnson has shared some of this information with me before. You can speak to it if you like. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, we're in the process of publishing our permit requests so that people don't have to make FOIA requests for those permits, right? Reducing load on the clerk and other members of the staff. So in short, what we're saying is this is information that's publicly available anyway, just for the asking, and people keep asking. So if we just publish it, then people don't ask as much. And so I'm hopeful that in the future you might be able to provide us with some recommendations about specific financial information that would be appropriate to publish, perhaps beyond what we do today, and perhaps less than what some people want, but rather more than what is available today, primarily for the purposes of reducing the burden on you, the clerk, our attorney, and so forth in responding to those FOIA requests.
If I can't,
Go ahead.
I'll comment on the issue with the Finance Committee. I can't speak for the village administrator, but I don't think he'll mind if I state that he and I both come from a background of chain of command. And having a finance committee as an additional layer with the village the village board, we're not quite sure where the chain of command lies. So that was a little bit of the issue I think the administrator and I had with the finance committee, is just knowing who would originate requests. I don't think it was anything earth-shattering in terms of issues. When it comes to the FOIA, it's kind of related to the third comment you made. FOIA is the frustrating thing for me anyways, is not only is it time consuming, but a FOIA requester doesn't need to indicate why they want that information. And sometimes if I know why they want the information, it would help me to say, hey, we keep getting asked the same question for this reason, or people are asking for this information. I think I could address that third point you brought up, is how can we come up with a generic set of data that we can have readily available on a website where if people were to ask us for it, we could just say, here's the website, go get it, and we don't have to manually respond.
Jim, I think.
And to that point, but to that point with the website redesign in next year's budget, that some of those issues that you brought up, hopefully will get addressed in that new website design, and the staff putting different reports and make it, it's one thing to say it's on the web, but you have to make it easily accessible too. So we'll have, it'll be a more universal fix than just saying we're gonna put it on the website, because that doesn't always suffice for FOIA. If it's half a dozen clicks to get there, they can still ask for the FOIA.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to follow up, with regard to the finance committee, the way I think of it is that in a larger village, there might be a finance director, and we don't have a finance director. We have a finance committee, and so no one reports to the finance committee, of course. Finance committee provides recommendations to us, but the finance committee is a resource, and it's a volunteer resource, and so they're routinely involved in digging a little deeper than the average resident does. I'm not saying they're digging deeper than you are, but they're digging deeper in their own way, and I think it is generally intended to be helpful. I know it may not feel that way because the tone of it sometimes isn't delivered, that way. But I think the overall sense of it is intended to be helpful. And as far as some sort of a standardized package of things that we could publish, obviously that's not going to meet all FOIA requests, because there are some things that won't be there. And as Administrator Rooney said, sometimes even though you can say it's there, you may still have to produce it. But at least it will be easy for a village staff to produce it, because they can just go to the website, pull it up, and produce it. And so some of this stuff, amongst other things, would have already been sort of pre-reviewed legally in terms of what's, correct me if I'm wrong, but in terms of what's sort of permissible or not permissible in broad categories, so we don't have to review each of these requests as they come in.
Yeah, and if I could answer the question about direction from individual finance committee members, we should resolve this tomorrow night at our finance meeting again, and then you have the joint meeting on March 5th, and you can set a policy at that point if it's still unresolved. I think it should be able to be handled tomorrow night. You have one member that wants something that the whole group didn't endorse at the last meeting. So I quite frankly said, no, I'm not gonna do that, not for one person. But you could give me a policy on the 5th that says something at that point, and I don't think we need to hash it out until that time period. It may not be a problem after tomorrow night.
Okay, Jim, you were next.
Yeah, I think Administrator Rooney kind of said a lot of what I was going to say, but what I would suggest is let the Finance Committee, along with Tim, kind of work whatever issues there are, because I don't think there really are any issues. I think once you you guys sit down and have the dialogue, I don't think there'll be anything, because I think you all want the same thing. The only other comment I would make, you know, I've been on the board a little while, and the finance committee has always worked, I think, in strong partnership with us. I don't think there's really any friction that ever in the past. So I don't see why there should be any friction now or in the future. So I would just urge you to work closely with them. And I also think, I don't think you can discount some of the comments they make, because you got CFOs, you got bank presidents, bank vice presidents, you got CPAs, you got a lot of other guys on there that are volunteers and certainly are not binding, but the flip side is they work in great partnership with this board. And at least I can speak from experience, the way it used to be and the way it's been for the last number of years, budget process is a no-brainer, because everybody's aligned. We come into that final budget meeting after that joint meeting, we're locked and loaded, and it goes very, very quickly and smoothly. And I think you'll find the same as you go through it. So I would urge you to dialogue, work it out, and I'm very confident it will get done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim, and now Ed.
Thanks, President Winnicke. I would just add to that we are extremely fortunate to have the very competent individuals we have in the Finance Committee, and no, we've not had friction in the past. We're coming off a period where they lacked information, where we had a transition where they needed more information, and we're not able to do what they have volunteered to do. So we really appreciate, you know, their volunteership. I think we just need to let this play out a little further, as some have said, you know, work with them. Let's see what we can get past this with the right information at the right time, working together. I think this, any potential questions or issues are going to evaporate there. You know, we have an awesome finance committee. We're extremely lucky to have them, and we appreciate their work. But on the reporting thing, there should never be a question. The treasurer is not an elected official. You don't report to us, the board. You report to the administrator. The administrator, all the employees, all of the folks that you know, perform functions for the village, that they report to the administrator reports to the president. We are a board that votes as, you know, we have no power of our own. We don't direct anybody to do anything. We vote as a body, and that's about it. And it goes the same with all of our commissions and committees. We appreciate all of their help, but you don't report to any of them either. You report to our administrator. That's it. So there shouldn't really ever be a question about reporting in my mind. That's the structure, the way it's been, and that's the way it should continue.
Okay, thank you, Ed. One last comment, please.
I just want to make a small correction. The administrator reports to the corporate authorities, all 7 of us, and not to the president.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, trustees.
All right, nobody's here from building and zoning, so we'll skip that. We'll go to 7, action item, motion to approve ordinance number 24-05, an ordinance amending Chapter 1 of Title 4 of the Village Code of Campton Hills, Kane County, Illinois, establishing the number of available liquor licenses. And this will be Mr. A's Campton Wine and Liquor Retail Sales over in Campton Crossings. And Mr. A is here this evening. I think he met most of the trustees, so thank you for coming this evening. I'll entertain a motion to approve that. Moved by Trustee Morgan. Do I have a
Second.
Second by Trustee Burson. Discussion. I'm just not going to stay. No, I'm sorry, no, not from the public, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, this is just a question from myself, unrelated to really, well, it has to be related to the motion, so I'm going to make it related to the motion. This particular license, how can I make it related? How many other licenses exactly like this? Is like the Shell station has a liquor license. Is that a different classification than this one? And what, just quickly explain the difference.
This is an AP license, which is
Right.
packaged sales. It allows for beer, wine, and blue card spirits, whereas the gas station does not have spirits. Is that correct?
No, it has beer.
Beer and wine,
Right.
but not hard alcohol.
That's correct. So that's so the difference is hard liquor.
It's packaged sales, but one has hard alcohol.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, roll call.
Trustee Morgan?
Aye.
Trustee Burson?
Aye.
Trustee Bogner?
Aye.
Trustee McKelvey?
Aye.
Trustee Muncy?
Aye.
And trustee Millet is absent.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. All right, discussion items, any discussion items? Okay, hearing none, seeing none. Additional items from president, trustees, or attorney? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session for one of the following matters. Appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employee or contractors. Litigation that is filed and pending or is probable or imminent.
So moved, Muncy.
Moved by Muncy, second.
I second.
Second by Morgan, roll call.
Trustee Muncy?
Aye.
Trustee Morgan?
Aye.
Trustee Vogler?
Aye.
Trustee Burson?
Aye.
Trustee McKelvey?
Aye.
All right, motion passes, and we may have one item to vote on after closed session.